So what could be some of the patterns of belief related to health?
So patterns of belief that could get in the way of one living a healthy life are it could be one of the beliefs could be I'm vulnerable, which is that I'll fall sick, something bad is going to happen to me, and I can't take care of my health because it's going to happen. And it could play out as something like anything happens and you get very worried. So it's like you have a stomach ache and you open out Google and you're researching everything from the minor to the most major things that can happen, and you're sure that something's really, really wrong is happening.
The worst thing to do is look at Google because it all leads you to cancer.
Yeah. It's the worst of diseases. Yeah. So it's that kind of a thing, and you're constantly worrying. Any minor ache or pain, you think, oh, okay, now what's happened? And now because Google is there, you can do all the research and you can tell yourself, okay, this could be happening, that could be happening. So you're worrying. So you become a bit of a worrier, a health worrier, right? That's what can happen. Another, so that is kind of an extreme. The other extreme is where you've grown up with this belief that your self-care needs are not so important, your own needs are not so important, and you need to keep others, take care of other people first. And so in that Sati Savitri mode, what can happen is
most mothers have that,
yeah, which most mothers have, and you're absolutely right. I mean, very seriously, that is a problem, because most mothers do have that, or a lot of parents do have that, is that they'll always put other people's needs first, and then it also comes to healthcare needs. Okay, I'll ignore going to the doctor for my back pain because I have blah 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 to do, and there's always a long list of things to do, and you never have the time to go to the doctor or make that appointment, and that goes into a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, and you have neglected it till it becomes a serious problem, or you're really suffering. So that kind of a thing gets in the way. Self-care is affected. Another thing could be, growing up in an environment where you've been taking care of a sick parent, or have seen somebody in the family who's been sick a lot. There, you can also from there, get to the point where you think that, okay, I'm never going to let this happen to me.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
Yeah, I've grown up in a house where I've watched my mother being ill ever since I can remember, and I think I've taken it to the other extreme. I grew up with the fear that it's going to happen to me, and I've taken on that fear and said, you know what, I'm going to keep that healthy, that I never have to face that situation ever again in my life. So I think, the spectrum is still of fear, but
yeah, and fear can make you do different things, So fear, on the one hand, you cope with that fear by going to that extreme, saying, okay, I'm just going to be in control of it, and I'm not going to let anything happen. Or the other thing is, you have a fear and you give in to it and say, okay, this is going to happen because it's happened to my parents or whatever it is, and I can't escape it, so I can't do anything, I might as well not. So it translates into, I might as well not do anything because nothing is going to make a difference. Right. So then you become very careless about your health, and you don't do the things that you could do to prevent those things from happening.
I think that's one of the reasons why we started Zen-Brain, is because it's important to identify that most of the beliefs, in fact, that are negative are errors in our thinking. It is not necessarily true, and you can rewrite these patterns even in your adult life. And I think that's fascinating, and this is the point that I want to put across and then reiterate all the time. It's also very important to understand where the overreactions are, and I think we will keep talking about it in every area of our lives, whether it's ourselves, whether it's our relationships, whether it's health, whether it's money. It's important to note that you can make the change every single day, but it's a consistency that is important, right?
Yeah, I mean, so change doesn't happen overnight, and if you're trying to change anything, especially a belief that you've held for such a long period of time, to change that is going to take, not as much time, but definitely going to take a good amount of time and persistence. It's like learning a new language. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to practice and consciously do it. And till you replace that negative belief with a positive belief, which is more helpful for you, which helps you live the life that you want.
If you've grown up with healthy eating, then that's probably what you're going to replicate. If you've grown up in an environment where it's okay to eat unhealthy all the time, then that's why you see obese children of obese families, because they don't know any better. And the thing is, we keep reiterating on Rebrain that it is possible to rewire yourself even as an adult. So what if that happened to you when you were a child, right? And again, I'm going to ask you, how can you fix this? If there is a health problem in the family and you don't want it, there is a belief system that sort of is triggered every time you hear of illness because you're so scared of getting it, right? How do you change it?
So one thing though I just wanted to clarify. The thing about it's interesting with all this stuff that it's not always exactly what you have seen or what's happened. It's your interpretation of it. It's what you make of it. It's your perception of it, right? So talking about healthy eating, yes, if you've grown up in a family where people are, people generally do healthy things, they exercise, they eat healthy, and they're just watchful of their health, then yes, the child will possibly grow up with a positive association between health and themselves, and they want to be healthy and they will want to exercise and all of that. But if those healthy foods are made and the child has no choice, and the child feels that it's a matter of control, that the parent is controlling their eating habits, right? And it comes from a point of control, then the child will take away a very different message.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the same thing with exercise. And I've seen it in families where, especially these days, parents will point out to a child saying, don't eat this, don't eat that, you'll get too fat, or whatever, things like that. Now, those messages that are going to the child may come from a very good place of saying, okay, I want you to be healthy, I want to not fall sick, and whatever it is, right? But what the child hears is, I'm not acceptable the way I am to my parents. So the thing is that very quickly it can go from a behavior to the person. So the message the child takes is not about the behavior. The message that they get is, I'm not okay. I'm not okay as a person. And actually that is when one of the body beliefs also get formed, is when children take away this belief saying, I'm not okay, my body is not okay, I don't look okay. And of course then they don't feel okay. But so it's a little more complex than that. It's not a simple cut, copy, paste. But it's a lot of times it's the behaviors are important, but it's really the underlying emotion that also goes along with it. And a simple behavior can mean many different things, right? So it's about what it means, and what the child makes of it is what leads them to a certain belief.
The interpretation of what has been said or what they have seen, that's very, very critical, right? Yeah. And it's not always the gospel truth, what you believe, because again, errors in thinking, errors in perception, and it comes from, like you said, perception. So how can parents ensure that this doesn't happen, that they are aware and they are very, very sensitive about body image, about how a child is feeling, and yet communicating that this is right?
So one of the things is, especially when it comes to habits that you want to inculcate in your children, for example, healthy eating and exercising, of course you have to demonstrate it yourself, and demonstrate it not in a way where you're also focusing too much on the physical appearance. So if I go on and say, okay, I need to exercise, or I can't eat this, or I can't eat that because I'll grow too fat, then the fat becomes the big piece. It's not about being healthy, right? So one is, what is the behavior that you're modeling? What are you showing through what you do and what you say, right? that's very important for the child, because they take away a lot from that. And then again, what do you communicate to the child? So you can encourage them to go out and play sports. You can yourself go out and play sports with them. You can cook healthy stuff in the house, try different things, get them involved in healthy cooking, so that it doesn't come as a imposed thing on the child, and it doesn't come as a negative message about them to the child, but more as just something that you do together. You do it, they do it, and it's just how it is.